Chapter 6.
With the impatience incident to youth, I could not on any account brook the idea of delaying the marriage. I would, independent of all opposition, have the ceremony gone on with almost right off the reel. At length, after a wearisome palavering, it was finally settled that it should take place on the afternoon of Christmas Eve, in the church of the parish. So as to avoid, were it possible, any tumult, it was arranged that the party, consisting of but a few friends, should quietly foot it to the aforesaid place. The hour for the service was fixed for 3 o'clock, and we started from Wally Villa shortly before noon. An awkward occurrence took place while we were on the way thither, which I dare say, for fully an hour's time delayed the advance. One of Marimonia's bridesmaids had tripped over a gorse stump obtruding on the path, and injured her left ankle, causing her to swoon right away. Happily, however, the maiden was quite herself again when the procession got to as far as the head of the recreation ground. But lo, then, to the complete astoundment of every one of us, who, at that time, did we descry coming hastily towards us, all in a broil and quite out of breath, but the very clergyman who had been engaged to officiate at the nuptials.
To the total exclusion of all respectable people, the church is almost surrounded,
he said, addressing Marimonia's papa,
by the ruffianly myrmidons of one Noxy Fob, ready at a concerted signal to perform any malicious deed. Moreover, by the rarest chance imaginable, I also got wind that they design to lay violent hands on the bridegroom here, and enforce him into a vehicle already waiting for the purpose of his abduction.
My heart jumped again at this.
Being a man of peace, after giving the matter mature thought, I deemed it prudent to eschew any scene of turbulence by coming to meet you and recommending the sacred function to be held at your own house.
His reverence had scarcely as much as cleared his throat, when a rider in hot haste approached to give the information that there were a formidable party gone on horseback for the purpose of doing some baleful depredation at Wallywall Villa, on their coming to know that the parson had closed up the edifice, and made his decampment, as they surmised, to the country residence. Marimonia, who throughout the whole of this hubbub had not been in the slightest degree disconcerted, then thus spoke, more by way of a jest, as I took it, than anything else.
Why, bother it all, can't the thing be done right off in the center of the maze here, see, right at hand? Wouldn't it look so romantic?
At the first, this advice of Marimonia's was treated as being inapposite, frivolous and nonsensical. Yet, on further weighing the matter well over, the scheme did not appear to be at all a bad one, providing that his reverence had no objection. After further deliberating, the result turned out that, by the aid of a guide, in a few minutes more the party found themselves in the very center of this famous labyrinth. But alas, alas, there was still in store for us a much more painful, vexatious, and perplexing crisis than ever. The focus of interest now shifted to Noxy Fob himself. Arriving, wherever he had sprang from, at the outside of the place at the very instant almost that we arrived at the inside. A good job it was that, though near, we were in a way far apart. He commenced his hostile efforts by bellowing out, like a bull of basin.
Look you here! Look you here! I'll very soon spoil this wretched little game of yours, cunning, and all, as you take yourselves to be. I'll very soon make Fro, there, dance to and fro on hot cinders, I will.
A little further on, had it not been out of place on the occasion, one might have felt disposed to burst out with uncontrollable laughter whilst espying, over the half-grown plants, the manner that Mr. Fob fumed, writhed, wriggled, circled, twirled, twisted, halted, advanced and retired, in his frenzical efforts to get to the middle, howling vehemently out all the while threats of terrible consequence. At every enforced pull-up on coming thump up against a blind alley, he would stand a minute or two, giving his head a vicious scratch.
Darn the plague! Pestering place, darn it, I say!
Bravely, however, despite the interruption, the service was proceeded with. When concluded, another grave matter had to be thought over, which was this: how were we to get out and effect a riddance of such a formidable and enraged miscreant? Just while we were talking over this difficulty together, a sweet concord of shrill voices came floating through the air, voices which had only to be once heard, as I had heard them, to know who they belonged to. Such were Queen Gismerelbram and her elfin followers, but, of course, anyone versed in fairy lore would know quite well that they could not appear visible under the light of day. Still, for all that, they could be plainly heard, and chanting the words of the following ditty.
Periwinkle, tip, tip-toe. Query, peery, peep, peep-o. Perplexed mortals this much know. We attend where'er you go.
The good to shield, the bad to bow. Now Tipwhip here will show you so.
The very moment this spiritual stave wound up, Tipwhip must have been alert. An ass, grazing hard by, suddenly raised a deafening vociferous. Coupled with this lugubrious noise, the company became paralyzed with profound amazement on their then observing Noxie somehow escape clean out of the maze, and in a mad helter-skelter manner, fly towards the donkey, all the while paying the most extravagant adulations to the dun shaggy brute, calling,
"Oh, my blessed pearl, Marimamnonia! My peerless ruby, beyond all price, I am coming! Noxie! Your Noxie has heard your dulcet voice, and he's coming!"
On his proceeding as though he were about to hug this very rarely flattered kind, the long-eared one let its hindquarters fly up in the air with the force of a discharge of dynamite, sending Noxie spinning right slap bang into the lake, as dead as Titus Andronicus. People maintain that his carcass forms the foundation of the islet, the nearest to the Brooklyn Bridge. Possibly that may be all nonsense, however, the above islet goes by the name of Noxie, even to this very day.
When this story was written, the curator of the recreation ground was Darby Claffey, who famously had a donkey and cart to help with his duties. The Brooklyn Bridge mentioned in the story is what we now call the Boat Shed Bridge.